For this episode of the SYNTHO Podcast, I am joined by Andrew Leese. He runs his own marketing platform called Socially Sound, and in this podcast, we chat all about marketing yourself online and other interesting topics. It was great to have someone on the podcast who wasn't speaking about things from a DJ background, and it's going to be really useful to any aspiring producer wanting to take their stuff, not just their music, but their online presence to the next level. And this podcast is sponsored by myself, the SYNTHO Electronic Music Hub, helping producers take their music to the next level. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this podcast. Hey, mate.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, man. Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Are we live already? Yeah.
Live, yeah. I always find the best way is just to record from the start and have a normal conversation instead of pretending like, hi, mate, how's it going?
Makes sense, mate. All good. Yeah, I'm good. All good.
So today's podcast should be really good because you're the first person who is not from a DJ background. Well, as far as I know, you're not from a DJ background.
No DJing background. I just moved in with a new housemate who is a DJ. Had my first lesson on vinyl the other day. I was all right with it, but it was the counting and doing the kind of like, it was on vinyl as well. Yeah. So like, I'm not built for it. Like, no. I find it way more fun to just kind of like send me the finished track because I'm not going to be able to tell you whether it needs hi-hats or whatever. And then when it comes to DJ, I just find it so much more fascinating dancing to it than doing it.
Well, yeah, I think in probably the most oversaturated thing in the world, it's quite good to have someone that doesn't want to be a DJ.
Yeah, no, even when that craze happened, like say after that big deep house boom that happened in the UK kind of thing, even that didn't make me go, I'm at an after party, my mate's a DJ and I want to learn. I was just so much more happy just speaking to everybody else dancing to it about the music than actually going, oh, well, if you do this and you do this and you do this, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I say this a lot. The dynamic of any crew, any successful party requires not just DJs. And I think it's easy for everyone to think that the deeper I get into the scene as well, you realize how many people are actually involved behind every DJ there is.
Yeah, a team.
Yeah, there's a team. And I think it's important that not everyone wants to be the DJ. So I think today's podcast will be great because we can talk about the things that go on around the DJ, behind the DJ, and a bit of background about yourself. I think it'd be cool to go in reverse, actually, to talk about first what you're doing now with Sound and what led you to that point, and then we'll just go off on tangents on as we go.
Yeah, okay. So I'll introduce what Socially Sound is, shall I, first?
Yes.
Basically, it's a platform for artists. It doesn't matter whether you're a DJ, a band, a singer, a vocalist, anything like that, basically. And it's helping you think like me. I'm trained in content marketing, and it's helping you understand, like my newsletter is called The Blueprint. It's helping you understand that there is a blueprint to everything you do. Releasing music doesn't change much. The sound obviously changes, the artwork changes, but the way you market it, still pretty standard. Like even with all this new stuff that's happening in social media or offline marketing, it's not that different. We're still marketing music the way Oasis were marketing music in the 90s, if you're on that scale.
Yeah.
So this business has actually probably been helped by the pandemic because now artists don't have, and I call it the Elbow confetti video.
Yeah.
Like you've lost that. And even though that's really like great, not great for artists' engagement, selling music, it's actually forced artists to think how important social media actually is and how important it is for the fans or your audience to know who you are.
Yeah.
I think what better, obviously, in a positive way of a pandemic, what better way to use a pandemic to let people know who you are, what you're doing. And that it's all kind of this Socially Sound business. When I wrote down what I wanted to do, it wasn't what it is now. It's just evolved. So I was furloughed from Mustard Media and I started using Twitter in a different way kind of thing. It wasn't just like, oh, follow football scores or like when the Champions, like last night, for example, the Champions League's on, Twitter goes mental, doesn't it? I was using Twitter then to just follow scores or anything like that. And I started to go, hold on a minute, like I'm a marketer. I want to build a business, or the business that I was working for was big scale. I was like, right, if I'm going to learn, why not learn from CEOs, marketing directors, people who are like way above me? So it just evolved. And essentially what it is now is it's a one-to-one coaching business. So for example, you could join my membership and I could coach you either once a month, once a week, or it could be one coaching session. You come back to me in 3 months. We see what you've done, what you've learned, what you've done, what you haven't done great, and what we could do better. And I think because artists, not every artist has a team, as you said. So I am that one-man team when it comes to marketing for you, but on a one-to-one coaching business. Exactly the way a business owner would have a business coach when they're starting a business. And the kind of just like life coaching became a big career, didn't it? So everyone becomes a DJ now. Everyone's a life coach. I just saw the gap in the market for artists who have just lost their career, essentially, and now relying on a 99 Beatport download to bring in income, which you take 20p of. Like, there are other ways to make money in music, and that's where the blueprint came in, because there is a blueprint for every artist, whether it's 21 Pilots, Sasha, yourself, Fuse and Enzo. They did something. And they started, like Fuse started with a free party where you had to get an email address, and now their database is massive. So like, it's showing you that it's not just all, obviously the music that you guys make in the studio is super important, but you can start a party at 21. You can start booking an artist with 4 mates, get a party in Sheffield and start there. That might then mean you're Youssef in 10 years with Circus, or Enzo with Fuse. There's always the place to start. And I think that's what Socially Sound's kind of like pushing now. I think.
It's really cool, man. I remember when I first saw it, and it was around the time. Remind me when you first started talking about it on social media.
So I started the business in August last year.
Okay.
But I only started it in emails and messages to people I knew.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, hi, new business, new website, roll out. It was, this is what I'm starting. This is the idea. I then soft launched the membership product that I have now, which is my main, it's like an e-commerce product. I can sell it any moment of any day. I started that in November, that rolled out, and then I launched it officially, website, membership, going out all out on social media on like January, end of January, and the membership launched in middle of February.
Cool. It's really interesting because I picked up on a lot of things you're talking about. And it was a lot of the stuff I'd encountered and learned about when I launched SYNTHO, about that and it going. I kind of spread the word with word of mouth marketing before I launched it publicly. And I soon realized I don't know, I think I was relying on gigs. It was the only income I had. And the whole pandemic's made everyone realize, like what you mentioned, is the confetti video, or even gigs in general, it's not a sustainable way to live forever. And I soon realized, like, shit, for me, how amazing would it be to build a business which didn't rely on every Saturday night having to go and become sleep deprived for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And at one point, I went as far as thinking I actually really was content with doing this, like living Monday to Friday, working in the studio, then, that kind of normal life in a way.
Yeah.
But the pandemic made me realize that massively, that we can't just rely on the gigs. And Toby Newman even said it, a lot of the people who relied on them confetti videos now have nothing to post because they've got no clue about marketing. They've got no substance in their music, really. They've kind of got a bland life outside of that Saturday night gig as well. And then they went from having that identification of music video to post that's what got them big, to then having absolutely fuck all.
Yeah, and I think I spoke about Socially Sound. It wasn't called Socially Sound back then. I spoke about this to a couple of people in London when I was living down there, and they're like, well, why would I ever want that when I can just message you on WhatsApp? I was like, well, I'm working for free if you message me on WhatsApp. Like, I always let you know the whole good saying, I'm sure you get it a lot, can I pick your brain? Like, my pick your brain is now, here's a £70 membership. You can pick my brain as much as you want once you purchase this. But I never did that a couple of years ago. It was always like, I worked for Fuse. There was a big community of artists that go, as soon as they meet the social media manager for Fuse, they're like, oh my God, can you do mine? They could have like 90 followers. I'm like, I'm working for Fuse and Enzo, and you want me to now start working with you when you've got this, the beginning step. You don't need me yet.
Yeah.
You need, but now Socially Sound goes, actually taking someone from 90 followers to 180 followers in a week have doubled their following by 50%. like if you look at it like that, now I have a product that helps these artists. And even though I do work with some pretty good artists at the moment, I'm still living in that world that they do have a pretty bland life outside of music. They live in a studio like you're sat in now. That's their life. They go home, wife, kids, and they don't want to talk about that stuff.
Mm.
Whereas it's in balance now that you've got to, like, personal content is probably your most engaging content, and it always will be.
Yeah,
And now they've realized this.
Yeah, I was about to say it's funny. I did a bit of a talk in my SYNTHO community recently, and I said the most engagement in, I think it was February, was a picture of a bacon and egg sandwich. Out of all the things I've done, making tunes all day, done this, and that's the one thing people post with. And it's kind of funny. Obviously, without the substance of the music, then it doesn't really matter what you post, but combining the personal life, letting people into your life has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I think we're in an industry where it was almost DJs were too cool before the pandemic. Then when no one's got an income, the cool guy isn't the guy without the income. That's not cool to be on your ass struggling.
Yeah.
And now I think everyone's, well, the rise of people speaking on cameras is
huge,
tenfold. And I keep telling everyone, this is the new writing a post. Being able to speak on a camera is going to be the basic of all. Kind of, if you've got to deliver a message to your followers, it's not going to be now typed. Well, maybe for the next year or so, but after that, it's going to be a standard industry thing to deliver your message through face to the video with a bit more personal touch to everything.
Yeah, like I use, obviously, Socially Sound is based on real life examples. And like it's all done on artists, what you're doing. It's not what I'm doing. I've got 1,500 followers. I'm small fish. I've never built my personal brand. And one thing the pandemic made me realize is, shit, I should have built my personal brand. I've been working for like all these brands, IMS, Spotlight, Fuse, for 7 years. And all I've ever shared is Fuse flyers.
Yeah.
Then what have I done? Why, like, for example, I don't charge a lot for my membership because I feel like, for example, I have the little community, I guess, that you're kind of part of, the Fuse connectivity of like all you artists, Casey, Adam, Josh, Sam Bangor, all these artists, they all know who I am, right? Artists outside of that circle don't know anything about me. And they could have if I'd have been doing the personal brand, the personal content years ago. I could have started a YouTube channel 7 years ago. I didn't because I was too busy building other people's brands. And I think, like, I use the examples. Sam Divine, I always remember seeing an interview that she did. The most engaging post she's ever done was Wedding Day. Night trainers, wedding dress.
Crazy.
People loved it for it because it was Sam. They know who Sam is because they've booked her or they've known her since she was, I don't say nobody, but nobody.
Yeah.
And they, once you get that wedding day, whether you're a person, a DJ, a stockbroker, that wedding day is the most important day of your life. And now DJs are getting to that point when people are so invested in their lives, whether it's through Richie Horton because Plastic Man changed their life, or whether it's from someone yourself, they've gone to your festival for the first time, they're now invested in you as the guy behind the festival.
Yeah.
That's big now.
Yeah, I think the whole the YouTube thing, it keeps me up at night thinking that if I started
algorithms.
If I started a YouTube when I first started making music 8 years ago, whatever it is now, and documented the whole thing, that would have been the most relatable journey I could have vlogged to the people now. Say I've got like 8,400 followers on Instagram. I reckon half of them have got some kind of interest in DJing or want to produce in that way.
Yeah.
I think investing in YouTube all them years ago would have been an absolute game changer. And I think what I've learned is no matter where you are, someone can relate. And I think that's a lot of people's problem with social media. They think, oh, no one's going to care about this post, but there is someone out there who can relate to what you're going to post.
Yeah. Like when I started my personal brand journey, if you want to call it that, I started by talking about why I've never built mine. And I didn't think anyone really cared about the marketer behind Fuse. Like I could sit there with a really selfish way and go, I brought these people onto this dance floor as a marketer, but it wasn't. I was using Enzo's name on a flyer that's got Fuse logo. I had nothing to do with it. Why does anyone care that I got 5,000 sign up to this event? But then I guess there's always somebody out there that is going to care, because somebody might want to be that marketer that dreams to work for Fuse. And my market could have been other marketers. And I never thought of it like that until this pandemic, when I was like, actually, like I've had people coming to me about social media advice for years. So I could have built a product like you've built in SYNTHO for social media managers in the music industry. I probably could have cleaned up.
Yeah.
No one was doing that. No one's doing that now. It's a pretty good idea. But like, you don't think about these things really. It's an idea that I could have been building something for social media managers in the music industry.
Yeah.
And that's an untouched industry problem, because like, how old are you? 26?
25.
So like, that for me is a market that's untouched. What I'm building Socially Sound for me, the 18-year-old that wanted to work in the music industry, in a way. Selfish putting it that way, but I am. It's like, what if there's an Andrew Leese out there that goes, right, I want to work for Josh Baker in 10 years.
Yeah.
It could have been it could be a cool business model. And that's where we're getting to now. And all because of this. It's really cool. The creator economy, I guess you can call it. And you're part of that now.
Yeah, I think it's we're actually in a lucky industry, because even though it's quite niche, it is untouched, and now it's kind of going bigger. I'm fully aware of this, and like what I've got myself into with SYNTHO is it's an infinite business, because the market's growing bigger. Obviously, it's online, and even though it seems like there's loads of music schools, loads of this, loads of that, we're in an industry which still is in its infancy, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole online stuff. And you see now, I think post-pandemic, I think everything's just going to go, well, I've seen it with the gigs coming in. It's just going to go like, I think it's going to come back tenfold, literally times. And it'll help everything. The marketers, the event owners, the what called venue owners and everything.
Yeah. I think the one thing you can look at now, the festival I was working before the pandemic was struggling. Wasn't selling. Those, obviously the competition was massive. They sold out in like 24 hours now.
Yeah, we were the same.
Zero marketing budget. Like a lot of these events now, they've put all this money into getting sign-ups. Now the demand's that big. Like, did you try and get Houghton tickets?
Well, I had one carried over, luckily.
Right. I tried. The person I was trying to get the ticket with, we were 7,000 in the queue. That small amount of numbers. We got to the final 50 and it sold out on us.
Crazy.
We were literally going into our A, putting the details in, and then it flashed up sold out. And we were like, oh my God, no, like, it's livid. And we're like, okay, we'll try tomorrow. 16,000th in the queue I was on Friday. Shut my computer down. I'm not getting a ticket for that. Done.
Crazy. The amount of data as well.
Yeah.
But also hide and seek, I'll never forget, I'm going to do like a proper video on this at some point, but the night before we announced it, we were like, right, Boris has said festivals can go ahead. We're like, what we're going to do here? It's just me and 3 of my mates that do this festival. It's nothing big what some of these other ones are. They've got like hundreds of people involved, and, you know, like kind of corporate, I guess is what you'd say.
Yeah.
Can we do it? Can we do it tomorrow? So we did all the costs, did all this, all the marketing, and then within 24 hours, pretty much sold out. We're like, fuck.
Mad, mate. It's mad. Like, I don't know if you've ever done this, sat behind, obviously as an artist, you do your own events, don't you?
Yes, you and me.
Like, they don't, before the pandemic, I'm guessing they sold out gradually.
Oh, mate, they weren't selling out, you and me. I'll openly say it. We put 5 years into a brand. We put blood, sweat and tears into it. And we had our peak, and it was kind of just steadying off, but this wasn't just us. This was a common theme across the industry. I was hearing about events in London, some of the biggest nights in London, who were selling like 100 tickets for like 10 grand lineups, because people just weren't excited about going out. And we sold, hide and seek sold out. We sold out 2 You and Me events in like, the first one sold out within a day. The second one took, I think, 3 days. And I don't think it's nothing that the brands were getting worse before the pandemic. I think people took it for granted, and now it's like, shit, people have realized what we had in the UK.
Yeah, and I think I'm one of them people, like, I guess you get to a point in life in this industry that you like don't buy tickets anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm so excited now to buy a ticket. I couldn't even imagine messaging someone like you. Like, I bought a Fuse ticket, even though I worked for Fuse for 2 years. I couldn't imagine ever sending Tony an email now going, can I have guest lists for this event, mate? I just couldn't. And
it's a weird thing, isn't it? The guest list whole. things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me there was no urgency ever. People just waited until the week of events and then bought the ticket.
Bought tickets.
If
Yeah.
you were lucky, or they'd get the guest list last minute.
Yeah. I think the selling technique, We Are Festival, I use the example, they got in trouble, and didn't they, for a while, saying that this is 99% sold out, and then put a lot more tickets on sale. And it's like, people aren't stupid now. Like, they can see the techniques. They can see that, yes, we know this event isn't sold out. So we're just going to not buy a ticket, or we're going to get it on the morning of the event. And like, in London, having worked for a pretty big club there, they sold 90% of their tickets on launch, and then the rest in the week of the event. And as a promoter, you're terrified, because you're sat there with your spreadsheet saying, shit, if I don't sell this many tickets, I'm going to lose this amount of money. Whereas now, I think event promoters should be really bloody excited, because it's that first 2 months, you should be able to sell that event without spending a penny.
Yeah, well, I think for us, it means that it's funny, because the consumer doesn't understand that if they buy a ticket earlier, we can spend more on the artist, the production, the experience is going to be better for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, for hide and seek, because it's sold out, we can kind of draw up now of what we can do to maximize the experience, opposed to being like, shit, can we put that extra bit of sound in there? Can we get X DJ playing there?
Yeah.
But we want to give people the best experience possible. People come back when we can add the most value to their lives. So for us, it's never, ever going to be about trying to maximize profits. Obviously, that's what comes into it, but we want to maximize experience. And this whole situation now is we can now put extra sound in for the UME parties, put the lights in, put this. And
instead of cutting it and saying we can't afford this because we're going to lose $3,000 if we put these lights in. Yeah,
exactly. So it's going to be a better thing for everyone. And I've never actually, now I'm saying it out loud, it's so clear how much better it's going to be for all people involved. People can now look forward to events. And I think the whole principle that of looking forward to things is often better than the actual thing as well. So everyone look forward to things. That week before an event, you're talking about it all week with your mates, and then half the time the actual night's never as good as the buzz before it. And I know often say the pre-drinks is the best bit of a night sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's positive things all around, and especially for UK artists, because I think it's going to be limited the amount of international DJs that can play here. So I think for everyone, despite the bad press the government got, I think what's now going to unfold this summer is going to be good for literally everyone.
I think so. And I think if the pandemic had only been happening for 4 months and then everything went back to normal September, October, Warehouse Project happened, I don't think it would have been like this.
No.
Like, it would have just, we've had 4 months away. Like, I'm not too bothered about seeing X artist because I've already seen X artist 5 times. Whereas now, I can't wait to go and see someone like Craig Richards. I want to know what music he's found in the pandemic that I've never heard before. And I don't think I had that living in London, knowing I could go and see Craig pretty much every week at Fabric before he kind of cut away from it. Like, I lived there for 4 years, and Fabric became like the pub that you don't want to go to anymore because it was just there all the time. Whereas now, that's the one club that when all this opens up, that's the first place I'm going.
Because I'm really intrigued as well to see what records everyone's been buying. I think personally, it's almost like a bit of pressure. It's coming around quick actually, because I've got Locust in 4 weeks, and it's almost like the reality of now I've kind of bought all these weird records and kind of, I don't know. I said to Sam on the podcast with him that you almost segment things. We lived weekend to weekend before. It was like that weekend and that one, maybe add a few tunes to each kind of set. Now it's completely reset. So to see the bigger guys, because I'd be interested to know what people like Ricardo have been doing during the.
Oh, mate, I'd love to know what Ricardo. Honestly, that is a YouTube channel I would watch the shit out of. Like, I've always said this to a lot of people, right? Obviously, you see Ricardo mincing around Amnesia Terrace, right? What's he like making his kids breakfast in the morning?
Yeah.
Like, does he mince around while he's making eggs on a frying pan in like the same way he DJs? Like, I'd love to know that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
And there's like, obviously all the Romanians are super quiet on socials, but like, I can't wait to see RPR now because the music Raw do, and then they might have been making music, we don't know. But like, I can't wait to see what these guys have been digging. Like someone like Zip, Ricardo. Like, can you imagine that first back to back they do?
Yeah, well, the question is, have they been digging for tunes, or do you think it's been a bit of time off for them? Because then I think,
Probably.
for me personally, when Danny was on the podcast, we kind of both said it was a week before the announcement of things going back to normal in sense of the timeline. We both said, like, we're not that bothered about DJing at the moment. It was out the picture, so it couldn't be asked. I wonder if that was a feeling that was common, and I think it was. I think everyone I spoke to kind of said, like, yeah, without that taste of people and atmosphere, it's almost what DJing relies on a lot of the time. Well, electronic music anyway.
Yeah. Like one of my clients he's building a house right now. He's 90% builder, 10% dad, 9% dad, 1% DJ. Like, I'm working with him on his socials, and it's like, this is where he's at right now in life. Yeah. And he's got an album coming out in a couple of months, and all of a sudden it's just going to be like kickstart to it. And I think that's going to help his like drive, definitely. And I think that's going to be the same for a lot of artists. Like, when the pandemic hit, did you push music back and go, oh, no, I don't want to release this now? Or did you just go straight through?
Well, unfortunately, I had I released that Succumber EP in 2 Minds, which did really well for me. I did the Piv EP, the You and Me one, the 3 EPs that have done best for me. It's kind of been like a linear kind of thing. Each EP seems to do a bit better than the last. But yeah, I make a lot of music. So it was, for me, I just used the point of, well, I'm always going to make more music. I'm always going to make more tunes. So what's the point pushing them back? Because usually each EP gets better and better. So
yeah,
for me, it makes sense that each EP just gets better. Because now I've got like 4 EPs coming out in the next few months. But if I'd waited from all the music last year, I think one, I would have lost a lot of momentum in terms of an artist. 2, I'd now have a massive backlog. And 3, music's to be heard. And I think if the tunes are that good, they'll still get played when the club's open. And if they weren't that good anyway, they're not going to get played.
Well, like with my blueprint, I've picked out like 3 artists so far that have done wicked during the pandemic. One was Bicep, because they've smashed the hell out of that marketing campaign. Would that marketing campaign have been exactly the same if they'd have touring? Probably not, because it would have all been the big laser Printworks videos. Here's Apricots live, you know? Whereas now it was on a live stream, or it was on that like sculpture artwork that they had. No one's heard that track live yet, which is mad. It's got 22 million streams on Spotify, and no one's heard it out live yet. Like, and Hot Since 82 did an amazing job with his album, where he did a hot air balloon stream. Sorry, get my words out. And like, would he have been able to do that if he was touring around the world? No, probably not. Or we'd have to book off, 3 or 4 days from the studio to go down to Bristol, do a hot air balloon stream, and that video's got 500,000 streams on YouTube. Like, maybe that would have been done on Circular instead, and they would have done it as a live stream with that. But they're doing it on their own channels now. And I think that's what I find so fascinating about this little world that I've kind of established myself into now. Nothing's off limits for me now with Socially Sound. If I want to do an article on Richie Horton's Plastic Man NFTs, I can. And people will read it because it's interesting. It's happening right now. And I think if everybody had stopped these marketing campaigns, if this had never stopped, everyone's marketing would be so different. What would have been next once you've done the big festival videos? Whereas now, artists are selling NFTs. Kings of Leon are doing their band albums with an NFT. Grimes made $6 million off an NFT. It's insane.
What's an NFT?
An NFT is like a non-fungible token. So it's kind of like, if I give you £1, you can give me 250p's back, and it's the same value, right?
Oh, okay.
An NFT is like, right, take the Mona Lisa. There's only one Mona Lisa. Someone owns that. It sits in a gallery. Nobody else can have it. They can have a printed copy. Whereas an NFT is like a form of blockchain currency, or an Ethereum is a form of blockchain Ethereum, that you can now buy digital art with Bitcoin. And someone owns that on the blockchain. So you could sell your flyer to a sold out hide and seek festival, and someone could purchase that through blockchain, and they own that, but you still own the festival.
Okay.
So artists are now like, it's insane what's going on the internet right now. And I think like you could sell artwork as an artist and you can have someone own it just like someone buys the Mona Lisa. And it's got that kind of value to it, even though you can just screenshot it and go, I've got a picture of that on my phone. It's a JPEG.
Yeah, so I saw someone sold a tweet, didn't they? The first ever tweet got sold for...
Yeah, Jack, who owns Twitter, someone bought his first ever tweet as an NFT.
It's crazy. Wasn't it for like 17 million or something? Or was it more? It was something
more, yeah.
Crazy. So what I was going to say there is, I think the saying I like is questioning the question. And it's kind of how I'm thinking at marketing now is it would have an EP that you release. It used to just be put a video of it getting played in a club, maybe do a mix. That is it. That was kind of what you do. And now it's kind of questioning the question of how we're going to market this and thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
I've read some of the articles you've done, and I really liked the one on. Remind me the DJ's name. She was promoting a mix, and she had all the carousel swipe across, and it was really, really good.
Ida, yeah. So like, I discovered her through an email. Like, I trust Stamp the Wax. I don't read music blogs anymore. Do you?
No.
Well, I do listen to mixes from certain music blogs that are like going to give me new discovery of music. So I subscribe to Stamp the Wax, and I really like Stamp the Wax as a platform. They're not compromised. They say no to a lot of artists. You're not our kind of vibe. It's about other size. And they do a platform called Digger's Directory, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a podcast full of rare records that you find on Discogs. And like, I remember reading the description of the newsletter because I'm built that way. Like, so how you write your description for your mix, US breaks, breakbeat, techno, trance, that's going to appeal to somebody, vinyl only. It's these buzzwords that people use. And like the way Ida, because I get it's in, she's actually got in her Instagram bio this Ida, not Ida, because I reckon she gets that a lot. And she did a mix, but she marketed it in a really cool way, where it was a picture of her DJing, and then three pictures of her holding vinyls up that were in the mix, and then a screen recording of the interview on Stamp the Wax, just like you could do anywhere, and then 3 audio clips. It's like she's ticked off all 3 senses of what you do on social media. You read, you look, and you listen. And that's what I think you should do when you market something. You should hit all 3 senses. A picture of a pretty girl in a bikini is going to make you look and engage. Yes. A picture of an artist, a video of an artist doing a video at Elro is going to make you listen. So if you can make people read, listen, and look like she did, I'm going to listen to that mix.
Yeah, I think it was, I really enjoyed reading that because I consider myself good at the whole online marketing and all that, but it's good just sometimes to read something and kind of without, because often I'll do things without thinking about it in a logical way.
Yeah.
What I'll do, I'll upload like cool pictures with the swipe across, whatever. But when you actually kind of read something like you've done the blueprint and then break down the steps, you realize there is actually a formula to these things. And it's not so, I think it can be daunting for people from a third person perspective when they see a big artist smashing it on Instagram, whatever. But it is a matter of just breaking down the steps, like you've just said then, and getting people's attention, having some kind of audio as well.
Yeah.
And it really is as simple as that a lot of the time.
Yeah, and like I did one on 21 Pilots, which is like one of my favorite bands. And it's kind of like, obviously I use Justin Bieber quite a lot as an example, right? Justin Bieber's marketing is brilliant. What was an electronic music artist learn from Justin Bieber, right? You can learn a lot. Like he did a video for Yummy, and I hate that I know this, but I do because I've done the research on it. He did the video on TikTok saying there's a vocal video on YouTube now. That vocal video meant by the time he released the song, a lyric video, sorry, by the time he released the song a week later, everybody knew the words. So if you've got a house banger with a really catchy vocal, you can make a lyric video and you can market that for a week. And you can get that into people's heads so that when you're making a cup of tea in the morning, you're listening to that vocal over and over and over again. By the time the track comes out, marketed, done.
Is this when he did the, he released the lyrics, but without the actual song, and then people had to hit the lyric themselves to the song?
Something like that, yeah.
I think what it was he released the instrumental, but then he released the lyrics, but you couldn't actually hear him singing it, could you? So you had to kind of do your interpretation.
Like that, yeah. So, like, obviously, if you think of if say, for example, you've got a new house track that's got a really catchy hook and a vocal to it, you can release the video with just the hook for 30 seconds, get people thinking about the lyric, and then when it comes to the track, the girls on the front row are going to be singing that vocal. So DJs can learn a lot from the biggest artists in the world, whether they're Taylor Swift or 21 Pilots. Like 21 Pilots do 5 different versions of YouTube videos for one song. So the music video might get 70 million streams because they're massive. But then the lyric video might get 15 million streams. And that means that 15 million people have learnt the lyrics to that song. Can artists use that? Yes, of course they can. So that's what my blueprint is essentially doing. It's showing you that there is a formula behind all these things, and it's not actually that complicated.
Yeah, it's really good, man. So what's, out of interest, what is your routine when it comes to writing a new newsletter?
So, because I obviously am a social media manager, I see things. As soon as an artist does something, I'm like, why are they doing that? Like, I guess it works for the same as you as an artist. As soon as you hear a track, you're like, how did Bicep do them synths?
Yeah.
I'm the same when it comes to how did Charlotte DeWitt do this, and why has she done this? And I'll dig. You dig for records, I dig for content. Speech, way they word it, the way they use a hashtag, that's just the way I'm built. So at the moment, as I said to you before, I'm marketing an album in the next couple of months. I'm now doing research on how artists market albums. So I'll go back to like 6 weeks on their Instagram. I'll see where they started. And then you know how you can save content on Instagram? My back end of my Instagram is like a Pinterest board. It's, say, for example, obviously I work for Fuse. It's Fuse announced party on X date. Fuse announced sellouts on this date. What did they do in them 6 weeks to sell out? Save it. And then I'll put all the links into a Word document from Instagram desktop. I'll say all the links, I'll put them into order and I'll put dates to them. And then that will mean that they started a 6-week campaign here, they finished here, but their biggest moment was on this payday kind of thing. And that's how I break it down. So like the Hot Since 82 one that I did on his album, he actually started marketing that album in June. He had a baby in August. So there's a gap of 8 weeks where obviously wife, as fiance, whatever she is 8 months pregnant. Then for a month after that, he's probably there for her because he's a human being and that's what you do. And then he marketed the album 6 weeks after the baby. So there's a thought process there of going, I don't want to be marketing my album while my fiance, wife, girlfriend is pregnant or having the baby. So it just shows you that, like, once you get a start date of a campaign, it doesn't have to roll out in 6 weeks. You can take 6 months if you want. So that's how I dig, essentially. I dig for records the same way I dig for content.
So are you doing this, you're doing it weekly?
Yeah, so I put one out every Tuesday, but all the ideas are in a spreadsheet. I've got 55 ideas, I think. I've done 9 articles, eight different, I've done 11 articles, I think now, 8 different artists, and I did Bicep in part 1, part 2, part 3, because there was so much to talk about with that Bicep one. So like I've done a Sasha one, and Sasha's got an LP coming out on May the 7th. So that week, I'm going to dig into what Sasha does in that release, and I'm going to do part 2, because I want to know how he markets the album on the week of it. So I'm constantly like, I don't follow artists for music now.
Okay.
I follow artists for content. I listen to their music on YouTube and Spotify, because if I want to listen to Hot Since 82, I don't need to go onto Instagram to find out his latest single. I just go on Spotify or YouTube.
And next point, actually, because you've mentioned it, is Spotify. From your opinion, what impact do you think that's going to have, and what impact do you think it's had on artists?
I think, obviously, there is a massive downside to it, of lack of payment. However, if you think of a marketing funnel, attention is always at the top. If you want your fans' attention, you have to be on Spotify. If you're like, for example, Tommy Farrow's track that I did a case study on, I don't know if you've read that one yet, 1 million streams on one track, 5 million streams on all of them, I think. BBC Radio 1, that's it. So the relationship is, if you're the hottest record in the world on your Mac, the first place that somebody's going to go and find that track, whether they're listening to it on the radio live, listening to it on the way home, or like the listen back on the app, they're going to go and find that track on Spotify, because that's the way fans are built. Fans aren't going to go and buy it on Beatport now. DJs East End Dubs might buy your track on Beatport, but he isn't probably going to stream it on Spotify. He might listen to it on Spotify first and then go and buy it on Beatport, because that's how DJs are built, right? Fans live on Spotify and YouTube. And I think the one I use Instagram as a triangle. Instagram isn't where you go and search Josh Baker track. You don't do that on Instagram. You go and do that on Spotify. And that's the search of like Google. No one searches Josh Baker track on Google, right? They might search for You and Me tickets on Google, but they'll go to Spotify and YouTube to search for your music.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I was saying before about the building the YouTube thing. I made an effort last year to upload all my own tracks to YouTube, to my own account. I think, have you noticed Hot Since 82? Has he got his own channel now? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like 60,000 subscribers as well. So like he's put effort into that.
Yeah, I think it's YouTube is an asset that can last a lifetime, that can make money while you sleep. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like obviously YouTube, the biggest, say for example you're an artist listening to this and you're on 0 subscribers. I am not going to lie, getting to 0 to 1,000 so you can begin to monetize is hard.
Yeah, fucking hell. I'm on 600 and something now, but I got to 500 without kind of noticing. Then I was like, I'm on 500 here. I think it's probably a month to get 100, and I'm doing a video a week, which is kind of, it's a substantial bit of content. It's not like I'm not just uploading a picture of a fucking track.
You've now got to find that new audience, essentially, haven't you? But that's what YouTube will do for you, because our algorithms are so good. Yeah, people will find you, and it might take a few months, it might take a few years, but people will find you. And I'm scared of YouTube. I haven't built my. I know Socially Sound's biggest asset will be YouTube, because that's where people are going to discover me outside of my personal Instagram or personal Facebook. But I don't want the comments.
Yeah,
I don't need that in my life right now.
Yeah, it's the savagery of putting yourself out there. I still get kind of anxiety about when I put anything out, podcasts or whatever, I feel like someone's going to comment, in the next video saying like, why have you said this? Why have you fucking done that? Or fortunately, I've only had like 3 trolls, I would say, but that was from sponsored posts on Instagram. Like someone comments on like your appearance or something like that, and you're like, how's that got anything to do with the message which is getting portrayed here? But it was just when I had my hair bleached blonde. I'm like, I'm not asked.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, it all makes sense. I'm not bothered. But if it's someone random, you're just like, and I think everyone says the same thing. It's just a reflection on themselves. If someone has the need to say something negative towards someone else, it's usually because they're either in a bad place or that's their release, which is, you kind of feel sorry for them. Really.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to happen. Say, for example, the more your numbers grow, it's going to happen more, because obviously mass equals all this, right? I like the fact, even though my personal brand needs to grow for Socially Sound to grow, I like the fact that I haven't had to spend a single penny on YouTube yet or Facebook ads yet, and don't plan on. Because, as you said, as soon as you start sponsoring, it goes out to people that don't know you. And I'm quite happy in this little bubble of mine where people know me and people respect the fact that I do this for a job. And I have worked for some pretty cool brands and I've done some pretty cool things. I like that at the moment. And yes, if I want to start scaling to say 10 to 15 grand a month, I'll have to do it. But I live on Stoke-on-Trent. I'm not like, I don't need 10 to 15 grand a month. What am I going to do with that? Like, might buy a house with it maybe, but like, I don't know what to do with that kind of money. So I'm quite happy where I am at the moment and enjoying the pace of it all, because building something organically is really powerful.
Yeah, I can relate completely. That's what I did the first. Well, mine's still 95% organic, I think. I just boost my posts on Instagram. I've not done any Facebook ads or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think, that I go through two phases of like, do I want to scale this up with the SYNTHO learning platform? And it's limitless. It's literally limitless because help any person that wants to make music. But what I think I would prefer to scale up the podcasts. I feel like this has got more of a, I don't know, it's hard with the teaching thing because it can take the fun out of making the music as well. Whereas this is kind of separate, you know, talking, and it's kind of a different avenue, which will keep the music as the more passion thing. So the teaching is more out of passion opposed to trying to make £1 million company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think right now the artists that you're working with are at a similar level to yourself. The moment you can drop into Archie Hamilton's get list and go, can you do my podcast for me? You're going from, and with all due respect, like the artist that you're working with to Archie Hamilton's got 60,000 followers, world respected artist. Like that's when your scaling of your podcast will happen organically because the guests will get bigger.
Well, it's funny you say that. I think either
got him.
Archie's going on. Yeah, I think I said from the start with the podcast, I want it to be organic and build as they've gone on, get better asking questions, get better at listening, and then get people on that are bigger. I've had a really good guest, actually. I'm really grateful for everyone that's come on it. But yeah, it makes sense anyway, organic growth. And then as you get better at things, then you want the more established people as well. Because I emailed Chonky at the start. I'm happy to say it.
No.
Not right now. It's not something he's comfortable with, which is completely sweet. But in hindsight, I'm actually glad he said no, because that was one of the first ones I was going to do this year. And it probably wouldn't have been as good a podcast as if I recorded it now. But even now, in 6 months' time, I'll be even better then.
Do you watch the first one? Are you embarrassed yet?
I don't actually think it was that bad. The only bad thing was that I didn't know the art of not talking over someone. But I think it's a two-way thing. That what I've learned about podcasting is I'm still bad at it now. We're humans. Accepting silence is painful for everyone in the conversation. Whereas in reality, it's a much better listen if there's a second of silence, but it feels silence is painful for humans, you know, when you see someone on the street or something, that kind of like, hi mate, you all right? And it's something I've got better at, I think, in life, being able to speak to people and just, you know, accepting, let them speak, and like they'll always speak. But, you know, if you try and always speak over someone, which I probably was pretty bad at.
One thing that I learned when I did my Tommy Farrow newsletter, I actually recorded that as a podcast and transcribed it, and I listened to the audio and it's terrible, and that's why I didn't release it as a podcast. That's why I went down the route of a newsletter, because it's like, Christ, like if I write a newsletter, all I have to worry about is spelling and pictures, whereas you do a podcast, you have to worry about audio, what it's like. I remember seeing you do this pretty raw, don't you? You don't edit too much. But then I'm a perfectionist, like an absolute perfectionist, and if there's a bit of audio, I'll be like, oh my god, what if someone like listens to that and goes, well, you just have to stop worrying, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's something I'm completely with. I'm giving people a lot of value through these podcasts. If someone's going to complain about, even I'm going to cut your phone ringing out, but complain about something like that for a free podcast with pretty experienced guys, and the conversations have always got very good substance to them. I'm actually quite good at that stuff. I maybe sometimes I should pay a bit more attention. But I think I actually Googled before this because I was recording Zoom. There's the setting you can have on where it cuts people out as each other speaks. And I had that turned on, and I Googled and it says turn it off because it'll stop that. I think we've all heard like podcasts during the pandemic where if one person speaks, Zoom has like a algorithm inside it where it'll cut one person out. And I'm going to start recording. This podcast is going to record 2 audios, your voice, my voice. And then if you want, you can edit them. But then it comes down to time as well. I haven't got 5 hours to go and edit a podcast. That's the thing. I actually got a status up saying I would happily take on someone for 2 hours a week to watch the podcast through, do any edits that are required, make some clips, 2 hours a week, whatever they charge. But it's kind of like a tiny job. So it's hard to find someone to do such a small job.
Yeah. I think if you're offering it weekly, then it's 10 hours a week, 10 hours a month. So that's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've kind of got to that point with Socially Sound now where I really enjoy the introductory conversation. I haven't got my website perfect yet. It is a massive work in progress every day. to make it better. And people go to me, what is socially sound? It's like, okay, my website's not good enough because my website should tell you that. And I outsourced it because I was like, right, I can build this myself, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I got to that point now. I was like, even if I have to pay this guy £100 a month and he only does 10 hours a month work, the value that I'm getting of not having to explain it to every person that wants to know what it is, it's invaluable. Because once they know what the product is, and I think that's the beauty of music, the people just have to listen to it and they like it. Whereas I'm selling a product just like yours now is selling a product. They have to ask loads of questions. And that's where I've got to the point now where it's like the questions, actually, I want to eliminate them because the less people ask questions, it means the better the product.
Yeah, I'm very precious with my time now. Not in a way where I try and pretend I'm dead busy, because I think busyness is a disease. People think being busy is good. No, being busy just means you've not got good time management.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. It kind of blows my mind, and I'm not going to on a tangent here. But yeah, I've now just I don't want to spend time doing things like editing a podcast where I could pay someone to do that. Say, for example, I paid them £10 an hour, £15 an hour, whatever, to do that podcast, or even 20 quid, whatever.
Yeah.
My time could be better spent making a new video or recording a new podcast or even going to exercise and being in the real world. I'd rather spend that time outside, because that time outside could then invigorate myself to come to the studio and make some music. Where 2 hours spent editing a podcast, one, that's probably enough brain power to wipe me out for the day, because I'm not good at editing videos. It's not my skill. It's not what I was born to do.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy doing it either. So it's not just the cost of the money, it's the cost of the then unmotivation to make music. Because I've sat in my studio editing a video, I'm not going to want to sit here for 5 hours after 2 hours editing the video
and then play with a hi-hat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I've toyed with the idea of a podcast. I thought the blueprint could be a podcast. It probably can be in the future, but I want to write about Hot Since 82's marketing. I can't ring Hot Since 82 up or drop them a WhatsApp and go, will you just come and give me all your secrets on the podcast? They're going to say no to that. And I don't want to start at lower end. I want to start at the top, because my newsletter, in a selfish way, is me showing you, other people, that I understand this. I am the guy you should be paying money to do your campaign for your album. It's purely selfish that I'm doing this. It's my biggest lead generation tactic to get people to trust me. And when you're an event promoter, you have to trust the person's going to put a good party on, right? You have to go to one party to go, God, that was mint. I'm going to go to another one of them. I'm in that build trust phase every single day, because there are people out there that don't know who I am. This is why doing a podcast like this is a really great asset for me, because I can just send this to them.
Yeah.
And
it's the same for me. The podcast started as lead generation for the membership site. It was just one more way I can shout out SYNTHO without having to post on my Instagram
all the time.
Without people realizing it, by sharing the podcast, it helps share my brand and share me as an artist.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a fair deal. If you guys share this, I'm giving you a podcast with world-class guests who know what they're fucking doing, and the listeners are kind of directly after this knowledge. But yeah, it started off the same for me with this, but now I've kind of seen the scope for this could be a project on its own. You know, it's not just this could run separately to the teaching side. But I did the newsletter for a bit as well, but for me, it wasn't adding enough value to the sales funnel. It wasn't recruiting new members. And I think it's important as well to realize that, because I kind of felt obliged to do it because of this whole, we'll come on to after this, but the whole consistency thing. But I'm consistent with everything in life, but what's the point of being consistent with something where I kind of weighed up the options as an artist? I don't think a weekly newsletter is that beneficial.
Yeah.
Really. I don't think what I was doing anyway, it didn't have enough substance, and I didn't have enough time to develop it into something with more substance. I'm better off spending the time elsewhere, like we just mentioned.
So here's a free newsletter tactic for you, right? Run a free download ad, Josh Baker free track.
Yeah.
Automate the email, so as soon as they've downloaded it and you've got their data, put the automation. So here's my last 5 releases. If you like this one, you'll like this one, this one, this one. That's how an artist can use a newsletter.
Yeah. good one. I was just kind of using it as a one to. The newsletter was good because of doing more than just. If someone says, "What do you do now?" I don't really say I'm a DJ now. I feel like there's much more going on than that. And the newsletter allowed me to talk about everything in one space, but I don't think it was really adding that much value. The actual number of people on the newsletter was good because I had a lot of data from you and me, hide and seek and stuff like that. But I just didn't feel it was worth the time. But yeah, what you just said
You
there.
could use yours as in like, right, this week the podcast guest is Andrew Leese. This is Andrew Lee's background. In this podcast, we talk about this, and it could drive traffic to your YouTube.
Yeah, I think what I was doing was I was including that as part of the section of the podcast, but I think it was just too much. It was kind of, it's like spreading yourself too thin. I was kind of talking about one thing I'd kind of learned this week, some music to listen to, what I've done this week in terms of releases or podcasts. But it's something I'll rethink because I think that it's good to add value to people's lives. And I think through a newsletter, it can do that. And another thing which I know you're aware of is the power of email. And people are so fucking oblivious.
So powerful, mate.
Yeah, because people read emails. I don't. If someone messages me on Instagram, obviously to get on in my email, you need my email. But there's way more chance that I'm going to take the time to read an email than some fucking tiny little message on Instagram. Because I'll check my email on my computer, or I'll check it in times where I'm sat down. Whereas Instagram, I'll check it maybe while I'm walking to get a coffee, or I don't sit down to go on Instagram to go through my DMs, but I will check my email in a time of, right, I'm sat down now and I'm willing to read something.
Yeah, and I think there's a good question that I ask a lot of people. Would you rather have 10,000 Instagram followers or 10,000 email addresses? I take the email addresses every single time.
100%. Yeah, I think emailing is just, it's a weapon of mass destruction. Something that I've done once is, because my membership is £59 a month, I've sent an email out, like I did an email marketing course last year, and I've sent an email out and made over £1,000 in one email.
Yeah, mad, isn't it?
And I've said, like, that email just made me £1,000. And they're like, how? And I'm like, because I've got many signups off a well-structured marketed email with kind of a hook, line, and sink in the structure of it. And it's kind of what we spoke about today has been really refreshing for me, because I really had this agenda with email marketing that every word in that email, even now, there's a reason that word's in there. There's no extra words in there. Every word is building the person close to that sale without them realizing it. And I did one that said, are you still interested in taking music to the next level? Signed off by Josh. Obviously, and it was all the people who had cancelled a subscription to SYNTHO. I think I got like 10 people back. And it was just the kind of, that was the opposite of it wasn't a big structured one. It was a straight to the point. People opened it like, you know what? I do want to take me to the next level still. And that was it.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, imagine if you're ASOS, right? If they post a picture of the hoodie and a beanie hat on an Instagram post, it might get 15,000 likes. It might get a couple thousand comments. If they put that same beanie or hoodie and then go, this is what you can wear it as a full outfit in, the likelihood is you're going to look at that and go buy the full outfit. You're not just buying a £2.99 beanie then, you're buying a hoodie that's 40, you're buying a pair of jeans that's 60, you're buying a pair of trainers. It's £150 product in one email. If 10,000 people do that, do the maths.
Yeah, it's insane. I think, and it comes
15,000 likes, £15,000. Like,
yeah, I think people need to remember that Instagram likes, I think this is in one of your posts as well, you can have 1 million followers and still be skint.
Yeah.
I know it's a good way. It's a good thing to measure, I think, in terms of your awareness in the scene. If you get 100 followers one week and 20 followers the next, you slow down your growth. But amount of followers doesn't translate to an income. And really, that's ultimately we all want to get an income from doing what we love. So it's good to I think Instagram for me, it's a good thing to measure in terms of my growth as an artist, because if my followers are going up, I'm doing something right. The content's resonate with someone. And if I got no followers for 2 months, I would question that if things are going in the right direction. But it's never going to get you paid Instagram anyway.
So I've got two analogies to this, right? And this is great. This will be great for the people listening. Instagram is essentially your dance floor. If nobody is on the front row having a good time, which is your engagement, your likes and your comments, you need to change your track. If you don't change your track, the people are going to go to the bar and they're probably not going to come back. That's following.
Yeah.
If you think of it, if you're DJing on a dance floor and you play a track and everybody's hands go up in the air, that's you posting a post, everyone liking, and you get that dopamine hit in exactly the same way. If people on the front row aren't dancing, your engagement's not great with them. So that's how I get people to understand Instagram if they're an artist. If nobody's liking and commenting on your post, it means you need to do something different, which is exactly what you do in a DJ booth, right? You're always thinking like that. That's how I think. And the other thing that I think about when it comes to Instagram is it's not about your follower count or your engagement. It's about how much attention you're getting. Attention doesn't have a ceiling. It's like what you said of your product. It doesn't have a ceiling. You can always get more attention. It doesn't matter whether you're being played on Danny Howard. You can also be played on Annie Mac an hour later. You can always do more. It's the same with Instagram. You think you can only do one post a day, but how many people can you DM a day? Hundreds. And it's all about everybody has this really closed-minded thing about this one Instagram square. Measure your success on Instagram for what you've done in the last month or throughout the whole campaign. Because as you say, 10,000 likes, 10,000 emails. One can make you nothing, one can make you $1,000 in a day. So how can you manage your success on your Instagram account and going, right, I've got 500 followers, but you can still make money off 500 followers by getting attention on Spotify, on YouTube, on the radio, on TV, on the side of a bus. You can do anything when you think about attention. You can't do anything if you think you've only got 500 followers, because the likelihood is you're going to probably get 50 likes. Whereas if you put yourself on the side of a bus, millions of people see that.
Totally. And just to add to it, I think ultimately it all comes down to you need to have some substance, though. It's easy to kind of get lost. I probably spent a bit of time in this when I was really in this email marketing realm of forgetting to the best thing you can do is bring a product that adds value to people's lives. That is the ultimate number one. That is what we need to focus on the most. However, without marketing it properly, then you're going to get stuck. But you can never disguise a bad product, whether it be your music or what I'm offering, what you're offering. The product needs to be the best it can be. And I think when you offer more value to your consumers, I'm quite open with what I'll answer on my Instagram story if someone asks me something technical, because I know if I help someone out and solve 10% of their problem, the chances are they're going to come and pay me if they want to solve the full problem. And I bear that in mind a lot of the time. And it's kind of easy sometimes to brush over the cracks, as they're saying, and kind of just dress things up more than they are. But I always come back to ultimately the music needs to be the best it can be, and so does the teaching, whatever. But then using the techniques I've spoken about can be the difference between selling one copy or selling 1,000 copies.
Like the way I'm with my newsletter, I'm offering more value in my newsletter than I am in my membership at the moment, probably because the newsletter's every week, and I'm doing that. But then, before, when I was working for other brands, I was a jack of all trades. Someone could message me and go, "Hey, can you do Facebook ads?" I'd say yes. "Can you do this?" I'd say yes. Now I focus on strategy and strategy only, because the amount of the testimonials I'm getting from some people. Like my best testimonial was someone said to me, "Socially Sound isn't just about social media. It makes you look at the bigger picture." That's like the ultimate compliment to me. Like, you could say anything about, anyone can say, yes, this track made me dance, but did it change your life? I've listened to some music during this pandemic and I've been like, wow, this has changed my life. And you can get it for 99p. You can buy something that changes your life for 99p when it comes to music. And like that tour that Oasis do, for example, they did, one of the things that time I saw Oasis, that concert changed my life. £40 ticket or whatever it was. So if you want to make music now, you want to make people dance, of course, but that track could actually change someone's life. That track could be their wedding song. And that's what I try and encourage people to think about when I speak to them and go, look, what do you want to offer? What value are you adding? You can make someone dance at 2 a.m. Great, but so can millions of people. If you can make music that people, it stands the test of time, like the Lauren Garnier Man with a Red Face, if you can make a track like that, it might take you 20 years. But if that's how I make people think, like, don't just think about making people dance at 2 a.m. Think about how they're going to tell people in the future that I heard this track at 2 a.m. I never stopped dancing. And now I bought the album. And now I bought the merchandise. And now I'm flying to Miami to see this DJ because he made me dance at 2 a.m. Yeah. And if you think like that, that's attention. You've got their attention for so, like, they're that invested that people still talk about Sasha Expander because he changed people's lives. And essentially, it doesn't matter whether you've got 50 followers or you've got 5,000 followers. You can still think about changing someone's life if you offer value.
Yeah, and that comes down to the product, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, all we spoke about, I think that last bit there, it's really important people kind of drill that into their brains. And yeah, following the amount of followers you've got now doesn't affect what the product you produce is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It all starts at zero. I think it would be cool to just do an overview. We don't have to go too deep into it about the previous experience you've got. I guess it'll just make people understand a bit more of how you've ended up where you are. And obviously Fuse, Ibiza Spotlight, Ibiza Club News. Maybe we could do it in a chronological order from the start.
Yeah, so it all started with Underground Source, which was a product that I still have now, but I don't do a lot with. And that was my first step into it. It was because I wanted to be a writer. And my friend Paul had this platform. He was looking for an editor. I started doing it for free. And then I was working at Alton Towers, just working in events at Alton Towers. And that was where my love of events came from. So I was like, right, if I can be a writer, I understand an event. So I started to go into Warehouse Project regularly. I'd buy a ticket and then I'd literally just publicize it that I wrote a review online. That was my starting point. It's kind of like when you realize you can get free music if you're an artist.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I can get free tickets to these events and all I've got to do is write an article, mint. I moved to Ibiza off the back of that because, like, from Stoke-on-Trent, and Manchester's a bit different, I guess, even though it's only 45 minutes up the road, there's opportunities in Manchester. At least since you could work for Warehouse Project as an intern, for example. In Stoke, that just didn't exist. So, like, I saw Ibiza as like Hollywood to me. You know, the typical girl goes to LA, wants to become an actress, works in a coffee shop. I moved to Ibiza with the full intention of 10 years later, I want to be working in the music industry. And I moved there and got an internship for Pulse Radio. So I was basically doing what I was doing for Underground Source, but I was reviewing Circle Loco Closing Party instead of Exhibit in Manchester, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what led Ibiza Club News kind of slid into my DMs, if you want to say, and be like, would you be interested in being our writer next year? That happened. I worked for Ibiza Club News for a year. I never came back. I went for the season in 2013, spent the winter there, building Ibiza Club News up to the point where we could build a website, build a magazine. And that's how it all started. It was literally went from working at Alton Towers Hotel one morning, clearing away breakfast plates, to being in Ibiza the next week, reviewing Circle Loco. I guess it's when that was like my first gig, if you want to put it in DJ terms. And I remember Seth Troxler tweeted me off the back of the Circle Loco review saying, thanks for this, man. This is a really cool review. And I was like, Christ, like, you know what a 15-year-old girl must get when Taylor Swift goes onto the front row of the concert and they walk past and like, oh my God, I've just touched Taylor Swift's arm. That was my, like, this career is possible. Seth Troxler's just tweeted me and said my review is good. Well, I should keep doing this. I can believe I can make a career out of this. So I worked on Ibiza for a year with Ibiza Club News, and I interviewed every DJ you could imagine obviously like to a level. Like I didn't get to interview Carl Cox, but I did get to interview Adam Beyer. Everybody, because Ibiza Club News had this following, we were a new platform, and all the PRs of the music industry like, right, we need to get on Ibiza Club News. This is where the audience is. This is a new cool platform. I was the writer, and it was just went from I was a kid from Stoke-on-Trent with a dream to sitting with Apollonia in their apartment, interviewing them. And then I'd see Dan Ganencia backstage at DC10 and he'd remember me. So it was like, all this was just really cool to me. And like, I remember I met a mate of mine who's now a really, really good friend. I met him at a club And it's like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm a journalist. It's like, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, I'm interviewing Guti in about an hour. Guti is playing this like banging tech house set. And he's like, what, you just go backstage and interview him? It's like, yeah, do you want to come? And talking backstage, met Guti. And he was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And it's like, I got to the point now, like that part of the season, it was like, this is just what I do now. This is my career now. And it all started from a music blog, just like everything starts by bedroom DJing in your bedroom, right? So off the back of Ibiza Club News, unfortunately, my sister passed away between seasons. And the last thing she ever said to me was like, don't you dare wallow. Make sure you go and work for Ibiza Spotlight because it's a job that's built for you. And that was my like drive. I went out on that summer and worked for Ibiza Spotlight. I did the job interview the week before my sister passed away. And then she was like, don't you dare say no to this job. You need to go and do this job. So I went, and that was never looked back. 4 years at Ibiza Spotlight, from being social media manager to being like their main marketing guy, I guess, clubbing and non-clubbing. And I stopped writing then. I just went into social media flat. And then I interviewed Enzo that year because Fuse was my favorite label at the time, still probably is. And I remember getting the opportunity to go and interview Enzo and Rich Next on the beach at Teeny and the Gang. And that was my introduction to Fuse. I was like, then I started kind of like wearing the T-shirts, the typical person that goes onto the island, sells tickets, and wears the T-shirt, carries a tote bag, hands out flyers at Zoo Project. I started to do that. And that was my introduction to Fuse. And then I said to them, like, I'm thinking about moving to London. I think it may be the next step. I was getting a bit bored of Ibiza at that point. So I then kind of moved to London, and they were like, right, come and work for us. And that was my step into freelance social media for more than one brand. And then never looked back, I guess. Like, International Music Summit is probably the coolest thing I've ever done as an artist, as like a marketer. Like, I got to market an event at IMS Villa, which is like the best event in Ibiza, like location wise. Sven Bath headlining. And I did that in 3 or 4 years, I think. Like, that's the short story of 3 to 4 years career.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I think it's often an industry where people don't know where to begin. And I think to analyze it myself, it's the same with anything. You just got to start doing it, right? That newsletter or that podcast, go to that club night, speak to that DJ, tell them about your idea. And there's not really a magic pill, is there, that you swallow? And it's just a matter of doing. And I can't think who I spoke to about this, but it was recently, and I just said that it's just a matter of doing. If you want to do that event and start the next biggest festival in the world, or you want to open a club, there's not really you just got to do it. And I think like you have
no degree in this.
Yeah.
There's no, I want to be a marketer. I want to be an electronic music marketer. I'm going to go to X university and learn about it. That doesn't exist. You can do that with point blank now with the music, right? Or you can go to any music academy and sign up to a course. But if you want to work in this industry, there's no starting point. It's an internship, or it's my uncle does this and I could go and do this.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to start a mix series tomorrow and you want to ask Josh Baker to be your first mix, you can just message him. He's not going to go back to you and go, what's your CV? He might ask you how many plays you get on the mix, or, that kind of stuff when you get to that level. But like, if they literally want to start with a music blog tomorrow, you can. And I started like in social media when I was at uni. It wasn't a thing, like showing my age a bit. Instagram is 11 years old. I'm 31. When I was 20 in my second year of uni, there wasn't an Instagram manager, a social media manager that manages Instagram. It didn't exist. So I've grew up with it essentially. Like, you're a few years younger, so you probably had Instagram 5 years young before I did. I'll say you were 5 years younger when you first had it. But I couldn't have been a social media manager then and market Underground Source. I had to just market on my personal Facebook, which wasn't even a thing for back then. It wasn't like it is now, where you've got 5,000 people on it. It was, if I start a music blog, I have to market it myself. because who knows how to market on Facebook? No one did. And I just grew up with it, and it happened. And Paul was always used to say to me that he builds websites, I write. He was like, you're going to have to get a job. So I did. And 7 years later, and now work in this industry full time every day. And it's a toxic industry, but it's so rewarding, because like one of the things I've always wanted to do is take an artist from zero and build them into a superstar. I think that's like that's kind of socially sound at the bottom level, is I could do that now. But there's no right and wrong way of doing that. I don't have to buy a textbook off Amazon, how to build a DJ from zero to a million. There isn't a book. Like Avicii did it one way, Carl Cox did it another way, Tiesto did it another way. Just the way it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, man. So what does the next 12 months look like for you?
So everything is basically now socially sound. Like when I was working for all these brands, I never woke up and had a business name. I didn't feel like I woke up, I'm Andrew and I own Socially Sound. I was like, I'm Andrew, I work for Fuse. That was it. Whereas now, the next 12 months is essentially, I'd like to be able to go and speak at conferences or offer workshops at conferences. So people like your members could come and do, an hour with me. And I can go through their Instagram accounts, help them. They can become a member off the back of that. That's where I see myself scaling this business. The next 12 months is I think I've done 11 newsletters. I'd like to be able to say I've done 70. And I'd like to be able to say I've started a YouTube channel. And I'd like to be able to say that the blueprint, I could break Biceps album campaign down into a 15-minute YouTube video. Maybe. It's just having that confidence to do it. But then I don't necessarily want to take on any more clients. I think when the world it's going to be very interesting what happens in September onwards, I think, when the UK club scene stops being festivals and it's more like UK clubs, whether we're going to be able to internationally travel or whatever like that. One thing I will say is I don't want to necessarily say I've been to 15 festivals this summer. I just want to go on holiday.
Yes, tell me about it.
I'm not interested in going to Dimensions Festival in Croatia. I'm just interested in going to Croatia or something like that. And if it means I do a day at the festival, cool. But I don't want to go to Ibiza for amnesia anymore. I want to go to Ibiza and sit on the beach, because we haven't been able to go anywhere for 18 months. So and as well, I want a car. That's what I'm scaling this business to. I lived in London for 4 years and I never had one, and I lost all that independence kind of thing. So when we talk about how to measure success, in your business, I'm thinking, how do I self-fund my life now? A house. That's the aim. Or getting on that property ladder or something like that. And if I can look back at that in 12 months later and go, I've just put a deposit down, or now have enough money in my bank account to do it. Not saying that I would do it, but that's the aim. And essentially, what you mentioned about value is I don't know do you big on goal setting?
I'm in between it. It's obviously the problem with goal setting is that you kind of constantly don't live in the moment because you're just looking at this thing.
Podcasts with Jake Humphrey did, right? Do you know Jake Humphrey, the TV presenter? He does the high performance podcast, and he did one with a woman who was a business owner, seven-figure scale business owner, and she was like, "I want to make the planet greener." That's an infinity goal. It never ends, right? Whereas if you say, I'm a footballer and I want to play for England, once you get that first cap, it's anticlimactic, right? I want to make the music industry more educated on social media. That never stops. So everybody wants to DJ at Fabric, right? Once you've DJ at Fabric once, tick. What's the next club? Broderick Johnson, tick. I want to help make the music industry more professional when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, I think the problem with goals is you don't want to set outcome goals, because that's where I had this conversation on the weekend. We sold out a festival, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago, oh no, not even 5 years ago, when we had the idea of the festival 2-3 years ago, what we'd be doing when we sold out the festival. Obviously, COVID's hit because it's different, but you kind of envision this whole celebrations, party, and all this when you sold out a festival. But you kind of realize that when you set these outcome goals, that you hit them, you kind of
feels like what's next.
Yeah, it's the what's next, and it's the destination addiction. So I do set goals, but I'm very, very aware that by having an aim to release on Locus, aiming to release on Constant Sound, all these things that I once wrote down on a piece of paper, when they happen, it doesn't feel like you thought it would. And it sounds very. Someone asked me on a post about something the other day. It's like kind of a life advice question, and my response was, whatever your goal is, it's not going to feel as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but whatever the outcome goal is, it won't feel that good. What feels good is having a good, fulfilled life day to day. The good thing never comes. Tomorrow never comes. It's about, and I said on one of the podcasts, we're having this conversation now, like, you've got to enjoy this and then go and have something to eat after this, have a coffee and whatever. Because that outcome goal, when I go and play 93 Feet East in summer, it won't feel any different to now, really. Obviously, it wasn't that day, the adrenaline, but you just regress back to the mean. And it's just that kind of want to be happy living day to day, not kind of setting that. Don't think you're going to be happy when you reach the goal. I think goals are good, though, because they can give you some structure and some kind of action. But I think being aware that the goal won't bring the happiness. I think
that should be the goal. Happiness. Like, I don't think before the pandemic, I wasn't in a particularly good place. I wasn't particularly happy. Like, this pandemic has helped me really focus on what I actually enjoy. And I guess the beauty of working in this industry every day is I haven't got a boss who I don't like. I haven't got someone telling me to just do things every single day on Zoom. I haven't got like anyone saying, oh God, for fuck's sake, I hate this job. I don't hate my job. I love my job. But the satisfaction I get out of it is the testimonials when someone goes to me, you've just helped me look at social media in a different way. That's the stuff that I would like to put on the stone at the end. You know, I don't want to go, this guy earned this much money and he did this for this person. I can talk about all of my achievements, go, yes, I did a campaign with Sven Bath. Great. Does Sven Bath care? Probably not. Like, I don't get any achievement out of that anymore. It's the offering, like you said, you get a lot out of the mix, the article on a mix, you learn how to do that better, tick, next person. And that's where I think I'm done this industry to know if you just want someone to pat you on the head and go, good job. That doesn't happen. And I'm done wanting that now. If I sell out an event for someone and make them 80 grand, yes, there's going to be a celebration of that, but I might have made $1,000 out of that. And that doesn't make me feel any different of whether they made them 150 grand or 80 grand. It's yes, I'm a marketer. This is what I do. But the value comes in helping somebody. Like, I hate social media in terms of what it's doing to people. But I love social media in the way that I can help people market their products better. I can help them you've just spent 2 hours recording this mix. It probably took you 6 hours to work out the track formation. You want to get people to listen to it. I like being able to help people to listen to it. That's it.
Yeah, I agree totally, man. And just to finish up, I think it's really good what you're doing. I've been reading them on and off since the start, and I kind of was aware of your project soon as I saw some of the things you put on Facebook, and I realised you had a very similar mindset towards the whole thing as me. Obviously, it's yours as a membership, so is mine, and I think probably in some crossover in content that we've digested. But yeah, I think anyone listening to this, go and check it out. We'll attach all the links to the podcast. And anything else you want to add, mate?
Andrew Leese 89 on Instagram and Twitter.
There we go. Cheers to that, mate. It's been a pleasure to talk about things. I'm very passionate about the whole social media side because I know the benefits it has and how powerful it can be. And SYNTHO's demonstrated that. Anyone listening to this, you found the podcast through social media. This hasn't had no paid ads either. So,
final tip, right? Instagram's not the only holy grail. It's not.
Yes,
any artists. It's just one tool out of 100 tools that you can use to grow your audience. And like, don't be disheartened if you're sitting at like 500 followers thinking, how am I going to do it? You can have a track on Spotify at 500,000. You can have a track on Spotify that gets to 250,000 streams in a year. and still have 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, totally, man. I think it seems like Instagram's the be all and end all, but yeah, Spotify, YouTube, emailing. Because another thing that, I want to mention this. When I talked about making money off an email, I want that to be relatable in terms of if you build an emailing list through with whatever, you can then send your new release to your emailing list, you know? So it's not just like you don't need a product to sell physically. Like me and Andrew obviously have a product that Andrew's got Socially Sound, I've got SYNTHO. So it may be like, well, what's email marketing got to do with me? But if you're planning on releasing music and you can start to build a strong email list now, then by the time you go to release the track, you might be able to get 1,000 people to buy your track straight away. And that's no easy feat with the Instagram algorithm and whatnot.
Yeah. What's your open rate? Mine's at like 45% at the moment. So I've got 250 people on my email list, and I'm getting half of that opening every time. If that was the same on my Instagram, I'd be mad. It'd be amazing, but it's not.
You know what? I don't actually check it because it's one of them things that if I check it, it doesn't actually make a difference once the email's sent. So I was checking it at the start, and then I'd see like 2 people unsubscribed out of 2,000.
Yeah, you focus on those 2 people.
Then I'd be pissed off. So I was like, you know what? Hit send and don't check again.
Yeah.